Hey, everybody. So I wanted to read to you a very active and energized meditation that I call the Excavation Meditation and Grounded Spirituality that might serve you right now, particularly if you're homebound or room-bound, unable to leave the house very much. And especially if a whole lot of old primal traumatic material is rising to the surface, sort of being catapulted to the surface by all the feelings around this panic-demic. Just sitting inside of that. And sometimes meditation can be helpful, and sometimes it's the worst thing for you, depending on the form of meditation and how long you do it for. But I know for me, just sort of sitting in that and kind of witnessing and all the rest of it just sort of agitates me. It feels unnatural. And, I have a bias, and I wrote so much about this in Grounded, which is that, my experience was I became more naturally meditative or more naturally unified in my consciousness, or calmer and more centered at the end of emotional discharge. It was like I could have sat in meditation for 40 years with Jack Kornfield and not gotten anywhere. And then if I did a holotropic breathwork release experience with Stan Groff in 3 hours, I felt like a completely different person. I worked in bioenergetics. Alexander Lowen was my therapist for a while, the co-founder. And I would perpetually have this experience of going into his space feeling kind of tight and tense and constricted and head centered. And then he would have me go over the breathing stool or tantrum or do some rage work. And at the end of a really complete experience of discharge, I would feel calm, centered, unified. I would step out of his house. He had this gorgeous house in Connecticut in the middle of this field of horses. And I would feel so completely, beautifully unified in my consciousness and at peace because I had moved my stuff. So this idea of having to sort of sit in stillness, as though stillness and patriarchal spirituality is all about this, it's one of their primary premises, this notion of silence and stillness as the path to the kingdom of God or something. Feels to me preposterous. It can be a path, but it's only one path, and it's not my path. So let me read this to you. There are other things that you can do if you need to do anger work, and if you're in an environment where it's possible to do some anger work, hitting the mattress and doing some grounding work first is helpful. Alexander Lowen's bioenergetics grounding technique is helpful just to get you into your feet so that you're centered and solid before you do some discharging. So that's one example of something you can do. But let me read this to you, and I'll read it slowly in case it works for you. And if it does, just come back to this video as an audio, essentially, and utilize it. So it's from Grounded Spirituality. It's in a chapter called Truth is the Gateway to the Moment. It's exercise 3. So I'll just read it. Sit on a chair, on the floor, or on a cushion, in whatever position feels most comfortable. While sitting, do not close your eyes or focus your gaze directly ahead or above you. Instead, keep your eyes opened and focus downward, looking directly and with great curiosity at your body temple. Gaze at your body as you would a loved one. Begin to make contact with your breath, inviting it into awareness, feeling it move through you. First, start with gentle breathing, as if you are gradually warming up. Then, invite the breath to move strongly and pointedly throughout your body, infusing your body with life force, pushing into and beyond tightly held regions. If you feel resistance, do not hesitate or recoil. Breathe even stronger. If you feel emotions, do not merely watch them as they float past. Instead, immerse yourself in them to the extent possible. Deepen into feeling, inviting all held emotions and memories to be fully felt. Use the breath as an excavation tool. With your breath, purposefully dig deep. Your aim is to bring repressed material to the surface, where it can be released and reintegrated. Allow this meditation to become a kind of visceral, physical landscape of feeling and sensation. If there are tears, feel into and move them to the extent that you can. If there's anger, feel into and move it to the extent that you can. If there are words or sounds, express them fully. If you find yourself turning towards a habitual meditation style That includes a focus on the sensations of the body, returned to the breath and intensified. If you find yourself getting distracted by thoughts, return to the breath and intensify it. If you find yourself wanting this exercise to end, return to the breath and intensify it. Whatever arises, return to the breath and intensify it. Your breath is your excavation tool and your guide. Now you are not just watching the body as it contracts and expands. You are fully experiencing and inhabiting the body. Feelings, emotions, sounds, sensations, textures, roars, and everything. Stay with this process until you have abandoned the watcher and have become a full-bodied total experiencer, feeling, moving, expressing, and releasing as fully as you can. The importance of this is, particularly for those of us who are feeling anxious or who are feeling this kind of cascading or splintering effect of all our old stuff coming up and piggybacking onto all the stuff associated with this very confusing current experience we're having with the virus. It's very hard to sort of pull things apart, and at some point it can all just become this amorphous insanity inside of us. So one of the good things about being able to go into the body, accessing material that you're holding, discharging that material in a contextual way, even remembering the memories, connecting to the memories, moving the feelings associated with them, is that if you do enough of that, and if you do it carefully, and you have to be careful with this, at some point you can start to make distinctions between the old experiences and the current experience. By moving the old material, what I call the power of then, you can come into the true experience of the now, not the witnessing version of the now, but the one that's actually embodied and deeply felt, presence as a whole being experience, the embodiment of your spiritual life. And the releasing will also allow you to rectify the immune system, because as we know, when we repress too much material and we perpetuate it by using meditation almost as a kind of medication or self-avoidance technique, quite often what happens is that material continues to deepen, intensify, congeal inside of us and concretize. And then our immune system becomes depressed and compromised, right? It's like that feeling you have after a really good cry when you feel like your whole being feels healthier and more able to protect itself. Well, that's what this excavation meditation is about. Sometimes when I do it, and I've been doing this on my own for years, and through my formative years I was doing this, sometimes you feel motivated to get up and to start moving this material, hitting the mattress, moving rage if there's rage inside of you, moving into child's pose and crying deeply and releasing the material that you're holding. It's totally fine to do that. The most important thing right now through this experience is that you keep discharging your holdings to the extent reasonably possible, that you don't allow all of this stuff to accumulate inside of you and compound inside of you till you reach a stage where you're completely unable to take good care of yourself, unable to breathe deeply, because the deepening of the breath is so important in healing for us right now, and unable to reach a stage where you can open your heart. You don't want to get so super armored and survivalistic right now, because that's going to lead you into a state of panic, and you're not going to take care of yourself, you're not going to properly boundary yourself, and you're not going to perceive reality in a way that actually serves you. So try it out. Try anything that you have to move this material right now. Do not hold on to this material for any longer than you have to. And that'll serve you, because we're going to get through this, but we want you to be intact when we do.